Invitations are moving around for the premiere stage production of Abibatu Mogaji. The theme, motherhood, resilience, and legacy. Special guest of honor will be our dear President and Commander-in-Chief. The event is for Tuesday, today, 9th day of July 2024. It will happen at 4 p.m. It will be at the State House Conference Center, Abuja. Olamilekan. The only problem I have here is this lunch Abuja. Olamilekan. This suit doesn't mean that you and I are not invited. Guests should be seated by 3 p.m. Just for the information of the civil citizens. I'm sure the cats will move around. Any petition? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ositanku. I represent the good people of Enugu West. Mr. President, the first petition I have here is from Mr. Emeka, a staff of Federal Ministry of Agriculture who was employed in 2019, diligently working and worked in FCT before he was posted to Enugu office. Mr. President, at some point, the ministry stopped paying his salaries and there were no explanations, and he's still working till today. He has done everything possible to restore this and feels that at this point that he can approach this hallowed chamber to come to his assistance. Mr. President, I also have a second petition from Honorable James John Oyembere Ike, a lecturer who is on TED Fund scholarship, but due to some lacuna, he has not been able to access these funds even when his colleagues who got the scholarship at the same time have all accessed the fund. Mr. President, we know this hallowed chamber is a hope for the common man. With your kind permission, Mr. President, may I lay the two petitions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any legal impediments?
It is not surplus.
Proceed to lay the petition.
Adam. Mr. President, petition, sir.
The petition by the leader, the Senator Ositangu, is referred to the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions to revert to the Senate in 2 weeks. Yes, further petitions?
Petition, sir.
Yes.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Shoyaba Folabi Sandeso. I represent the people of Ogun Central Senatorial District. I'm from Ogun State. With the leave of Mr. President, I have a petition here against the Nigerian Air Force over misuse of office and official handedness against Master Warrant Officer Sholai AR and a case for Senate intervention. Warrant Officer Sholai AR is an officer in the Nigerian Air Force from a Wikro local government of my senatorial district. She has put in a total of 24 years of meritorious service in the Nigerian Air Force. Incidentally, her husband, late Warrant Officer Olawale Taiwo Daramola, was also an officer who died in the line of active service. The Shola has been declared war and it is started by the Nigerian Air Force without due process, and the entitlement due to her late husband have been withheld. Mr. President, she is seeking the intervention of the Senate to get the entitlement of our late husband and to also have our restated. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I wish to state that to the best of my knowledge, the petitioner has not sought any judicial remedy. I thank you, Mr. President. May I have your leave to lay the petition, sir.
Please proceed to lay the petition. The petition is referred to the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petitions to report back to the Senate in 2 weeks. Any further petition? Leader of the Senate.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Point of order, Distinguished Senator Yarra.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. I am Abdulaziz Musa Radwa, representing the people of Katsina Central. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 41 and 51. With your leave, may I go ahead and read the orders, Mr. President?
Read the orders.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Order 41. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Order 51. Notice shall not be dispensed. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have an urgent motion in respect of the increase on the cost of electricity supply, especially in our federal teaching hospitals in the country, and the general effect it will have on the populace. I discussed this with you, Mr. President, and I thought it was very important to bring this to the Senate so that something can be done, so that the effect of this high cost of electricity should not be transferred to the citizens of this country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Yarra brought to my attention what we are all passing through as citizens of the country, that recently there has been serious increase in electricity tariff that is affecting businesses, affecting households, and he felt he would like to bring it up to the Senate for discussion and possible resolutions. Is it the view of the Senate that he be allowed to proceed? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, the Senate introduces this motion to bring to the attention of this esteemed Senate the grave implications of the recent electricity subsidy removal policy enforced by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, particularly in the health sector, which is causing undue strain on public health institutions and likely to impact on the populace they serve. Reports that the recent April 2024 supplementary order issued by Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission initiated the phased withdrawal of electricity subsidies, leading to a significant increase in the cost of electricity per unit, particularly affecting Band A consumers, with the cost surging from 73.61 kilowatt hour to 225 per kilowatt hour. Notes that the Kano Electricity Distribution Company, in compliance with the same order, has notified the Federal Teaching Hospital, Katsina, with an increment of a bill from 12,337,801 naira 88 kobo to 59,287,190 naira 63 kobo, which is an alarming 380.15% increase. These exorbitant increases in electricity charges have placed an unjustifiable burden on our esteemed healthcare facilities, impeding their ability to provide essential medical services to our community. Notes that sources of revenue for teaching hospitals includes overheads capital appropriation, internally generated revenue, and revolving funds. While monthly overheads released for Federal Teaching Hospital in Katsina averages 22 million naira, the revolving funds generated by the hospital are mostly used for maintenance of medical equipment, supply of drugs, purchase of diesel, and maintenance of their plants. The revolving funds are also used for payment of accreditation of the hospital's postgraduate programs. Informed that based on the old electricity rate of 73.6 kilowatt hour, patients are charged 80,000 naira for CT scan, 125,000 for surgery, 75,000 naira for dialysis, 80,000 naira for cesarean section, and 30,000 naira for x-rays, just to mention a few. Concerned that the Chief Medical Director of Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, Kaduna State, Professor Ahmed Hamidu, on Monday, June 3rd, 2024, while addressing journalists, lamented the rise in the cost of electricity bills. In his words, Mr. President, he said, and I quote, "Due to the current increase in the energy tariff, last month alone, we paid 25 million naira, but the latest bill brought to us 75 million naira. We are deeply concerned and don't know where to get the money. Even if we use all the funds available in the hospital to pay for energy, it won't be enough." Disturbed that if the current rate of 225 naira per kilowatt hour is sustained, hospitals are likely to transfer the energy bill to patients to almost 3 times what they are currently paying. Reminds that public health institutions play a critical role in ensuring access to quality health care for all citizens, and subjecting them to exorbitant electricity tariffs threatens their operational viability, potentially leading to a collapse of essential healthcare services and further exacerbating the healthcare crisis in our nation. Emphasizes that this matter demands immediate national attention and action to prevent a healthcare system breakdown and safeguard the healthcare and well-being of our populace, especially in times of economic uncertainty, inflation, and reduced living standards. The Senate therefore resolves that the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission be implored to reverse the subsidy removal policy and exempt all federal teaching hospitals in Nigeria from the increased electricity tariffs by reinstating the previous rate of 76 naira 61 kobo per kilowatt hour. The respective Senate committees on health and power should liaise with the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission with a view to working out electricity bill concessions for public health institutions nationwide. The federal government, through Rural Electrification Agency, should prioritize more health institutions under the ongoing containerized solar hybrid systems to help reduce cost of electricity in public health institutions. I so move and I so submit, Mr. President.
Senator Abaribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Enyin Naya Baribe. I represent Abia South. I want to thank my good friend Abdulaziz for bringing up this matter. But Mr. President, I would like the Senate to note that the Committee on Power looked into this matter and brought a report to this chamber. But on the day that the report was being laid and was being discussed, there was a matter that was brought up that the matter was in court, and therefore that that we should take cognizance of it. In the opinion of the presiding officer that day, it was resolved that they should ask the legal department of the National Assembly for their advice before we could go on. And so that report, which comprehensively deals with this matter, was suspended and has remained suspended up to today. In fact, if you look at the second prayer, it also, goes to the heart of this issue. So I suggest, Mr. President, that if we could resume consideration of that report from the Committee on Power, that will take care of this problem and several other problems of this nature that has come up since the change in tariffs. I so submit.
Let me ask a question so that we don't go into too much debate. Does it mean that while the matter is sub judice, that the NEC is already implementing the new electricity tariff? So what stops us from stepping into it? Because if we want to wait for the court may finish in 11 years.
I think, sir, that
from first court to the second court to Supreme Court, and before it comes back, and then the public would have really suffered a lot of irreversible jeopardy. So if the court does not really stop us from doing what we are doing, there is no restraining order.
There was actually no restraining order.
Yes.
And it just cited our rules, which says, in the opinion, for which the presiding officer said they will consult the legal department. And I'm sure.
But at the same time, we have a rule, Section 1B,
yes,
which allows us to regulate
our own procedure. So, yes, and we pointed it out that yes. So I think if we finish this
the two report, we thank you for bringing this to the fore. There is no way that a level of charge or charges can be sustained, and then it will not affect not just the healthcare system, it will affect everything, even foodstuff in the market and all that. And in view of the urgency of it, and the fact that we are not restrained by any court order, I think the Senate should reconsider taking that report. Distinguished colleagues, is it the view of the Senate that to bring a holistic end to this matter, that the Committee on Powers report on this same issue be brought forward by the next legislative date? Those who support say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. So I thank you for this report, and Senator Abaribe, tomorrow you bring up that report for consideration by the Senate. Senate Leader.
Mr. President.
Point of order, sorry. Point of order from.
We need a clock here.
Oh, okay, Senator Olare.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I want to come under Order 42. With your permission, I have your line to read, sir. Order 42.
Senator Honorary, just give a minute because this is Senator Lau. Yes, the civil senator. Senator Bilbius, allow him to give information to the Senate in respect of the last discussion. Please.
Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, my name is Mustafa Habib, representing Jigawa Southwest. As regards the motion brought about by Senator Eradwa and the contribution of Senator Abaribi, I want to update this Senate that NAC does not respect any court order. It is my branch of Manufacturers Association, Kano, that sued NAC and the DISCO, and the court issued an order that things should maintain the status quo, and that nobody should be disconnected. But the DISCO went around disconnecting almost all the members of NAC except except those who paid them. So I see no reason why we should not rescue this motion, this nation, by receiving this report, which is very comprehensive because I was part of it. So I think we should not hesitate to go ahead with considering that report, because that will bring succor to our country and the industries in particular, because most of the industries will close down. We cannot afford to pay. Thank you.
Well, distinguished colleagues, thank you. Point of order is sustained. Distinguished colleagues, what the distinguished Senator Kabir Mustafa has just informed us is that the restraining order was actually against the National or Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, but they did not obey the order. They went ahead to implement this despite the existing court order. There is no court order that restrains the Senate from discussing this issue, and therefore it's reinforcing our decision to take the report tomorrow and therefore take consequential resolutions on the matter. Any other thing?
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished Senator Mohammed Ali. In addition to what he said, Mr. President, this is an institution that oversights, regulates, and makes laws. If in court has issued an order and the individuals or group or institution concerned refuse, the voice of the Senate or the power of the Senate should go out there before we consider the report. So I'm appealing that we should add to the voice of the court that these people should refrain from doing what they are doing against the law. If we become lawless, then they too will not even operate. So the message should go out today that, Mr. President, that they should obey the court order before we even consider the report, which is coming, and the highlights of the report is known. We are representing the people. And these companies, I want to repeat, Mr. President, it does not belong to them. It belongs to the people. It was never before. Then they shared it among themselves. They didn't even pay for it. It is on record. Then why should they come and be charging people anyhow? And the court will say, don't do this, and they will ignore the court. They are Nigerians.
Well, as at now, the court order is not before the Senate. So it's only an information that is before the Senate. We don't have a copy of the court order. And we must be, is it that, do you have the court order with you? Because we are discussing the court order now. If the court order were before us today, we would have made consequential directives. But the court order is not before us. Therefore, it is important that we take the report tomorrow. But if in the course of taking the report, somebody avails the Senate of the court order, it reinforces our position, and we will make consequential directives accordingly. Is it the view of the Senate that all discussions on this matter be vetted until we take the report tomorrow. Those in favor say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate has decided to take the report tomorrow without further discussion on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues. I said I want to come under Order 42. Allowed to, sir?
Personal explanation.
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
Thank you, sir. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, the Senator will make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon an explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when it's leave to make it sought. So, thank you, Mr. President. The motion is about a tribute to a prominent traditional ruler in Osun State who doubles as the Secretary General of National Council of Traditional Rulers in Nigeria. That's a tribute to him.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Oyewumi Kamaludin Olalere. I represent Osun West Central District of Osun State in this chamber. This is a tribute to His Royal Majesty Oba Architect Dr. Aderemi Adin Adedapo Alayimore Olojudo of Ido-Osun Sakpo Yoruba, who died on 17th May 2024 and whose funeral prayer was held last Saturday, 6th July 2024. Mr. President, the Royal Majesty was born on 25th day of August 1952 to Prince Sabutu Iyanda Adeniyi Adedapo of Sakoyoro Okoroya family in Egbedo local government area, Ido-Osun of Osun State. He was educated at early primary school Ayetoro Osogbo, Osun State from 1958 to 1964. He proceeded to Osogbo Grammar School, Osogbo, Osun State from 1965 to 1969, and later proceeded to Loyola College, Ibadan, Oyo State for his HSC. Kabesi studied as professor of Lagos State, where he read architecture at Corning City College, New York. He later studied architecture again and urban design at Columbia University, New York City, and later studied law at Leeds City University, Ibadan, Oyo State. Kabesi became the 46th Oludo of Ido-Osun on the 10th day of March 2005, and he was coronated on the 18th day of June 2005. Kabesi Aderemi Adin Adedapo was the Secretary General of National Council of Traditional Rulers in Nigeria, NCTRN. He was the Southwest Coordinator of Traditional Council of Nigeria. He was the Vice Grand Patron of all Yoruba Progressive Club of Americans and the Convener General of Council of Traditional Leaders of Africa. Late Oludo was superfluously elegant, agelessly handsome, and magnificently talented. He is an epitome of culture and a great philanthropist. My prayer is just all this Senate to observe a minute silence in his honor of this great leader and the custodian of traditional culture. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, distinguished Senator Olalere came under Order 42, which is a personal explanation. We don't need to debate it. We can only, on behalf of the Senate, convey our condolences to the family and the good people of Ido-Osun on the demise of this very renowned scholar and traditional father. So may his soul rest in perfect peace. Accept our condolences and extend same to the good people of Osun State. May we now rise for 1 minute silence to honor this great scholar and traditional father of repute who has gone to join his ancestors. the soul of His Royal Majesty, Oba Architect Aderemi Adinadadepo, the Olodun of Oshun, Leader of the Senate.
Your Excellency, Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is presentation of bill standing in the name of Senator Khabib Mustafa on the Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act Amendment Bill 2024, SB 454. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act Amendment Bill 2024, SB 454, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act Amendment Bill 2024, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, the second business of the day is presentation of the bill standing in the name of Senator Sam Titus Zatenga on the National Eye Center, Buko, Benue State, Establishment Bill 2024, SB 506. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Eye Center, Buku, Benue State Establishment Bill 2024, SB 506, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, National Eye Center, Buko, Benue State Establishment Bill 2024, SB 506, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the third business of the day is presentation of the bill standing in the name of Senator Dixon Sereka Henry on Federal Medical Center, Turu Urua, Bayelsa State, Establishment Bill 2024, SB 507. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Medical Center, Toru Urua, Bayelsa State Establishment Bill 2024, SB 507, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal Medical Center, Toru Urua, Bayelsa State Establishment Bill 2024, SB 511, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Your Excellency, Mr. Senate President, the fourth business of the day is presentation of bill standing in the name of Senator Oyewumi Kamaluddin Olaleru of Federal Medical Center, Ikire, Osun State, Establishment Bill 2024, SB 511. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Medical Center, Ikire, Osun State Establishment Bill 2024, SB 511, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal Medical Center, Ikire, Osun State Establishment Bill 2024, SB 511, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the fifth business of the day is presentation of the bill standing in the name of Senator Daniel Olugbenga Justus on Federal Medical Center, Ijebu-Ije, Ogun State, Establishment Bill 2024, SB 514. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Medical Center, Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State Establishment Bill 2024, SB 514, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal Medical Center, Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State Establishment Bill 2024, SB 514, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the first order of the day is the second reading of the Violence Against Persons Act, Amendment Bill 2024, SB 368. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 28 February 2024. Mr. President, may wish to invite Senator Lisa to move the motion for the bill to be read second time.
Distinguished Senator Issa Jibril.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, very distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibril, representing the very good people of Kogi East. Your Excellency, I rise to move that the bill to an act to repeal the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 and enact the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Bill 2024 to eliminate violence in private and public life, prohibit all forms of violence against persons, and to provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims and punishment of offenders, and for related matters, 2024 SB 368.
Proceed.
All right, sir.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to lead the debate on this very important and disturbing trend in Nigeria. Mr. President, my highly distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead debate on this very important bill. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, permit me to lead debate on this very important bill seeking to repeal the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 and enact an act to eliminate violence in private and public life, prohibit all forms of violence against persons, and to provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims and punishment of offenders and for related matters. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, due to the far-reaching nature of this bill, let me crave your indulgence to extensively highlight the background, which I believe will not only provide the proper context for this legislative initiative, but also motivate the National Assembly to accelerate the legislative process in enacting this bill. This bill was enacted in 2015 against the backdrop of the rising cases of violence, especially domestic violence against women. The initial bill sought protection for women from male domination violence. In the face of opposition to its obvious gender-biased nature, the promoters renamed it, tinkered with some of its provisions, introduced seemingly gender-neutral language, and successfully obtained its passage. Its explanatory memorandum states that it prohibits all forms of violence against persons in private and public life, and provides protection and remedies for victims and punishment of offenders. Upon close scrutiny of the Act, it becomes obvious that it contains provisions that are inimical to the realization of its objectives. Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, going through the provisions of the Act, it is obvious that it is plagued by substantial and drastic challenges. This underscores the necessity for a holistic reform of the Act to bring the provisions in line with the realities of societal change and drafting standards to effective dispensation of justice. Some of the major areas of concern in the Act are highlighted as follows. There are several strict liability offenses in the Act. There are instances where mental element is not needed, but only the physical element, which is all that is required to complete the offense. This therefore calls for a review to introduce elements of intention. The provision of fine and imprisonment of the Act have become infinitesimal to have meaningful deterrent effect. This is particularly so in view of the current economic realities in Nigeria. In Section 1 of the Act, the offense of rape needs particular attention. There is need to make a decision between absence of consent and consent obtained by fraud, undue influence, and other unlawful means. The Act contains inadequate provisions for compensation of the victims of violence. The penal focus is on fines and imprisonment, with little on compensation. In addition to the punishments, it is better by way of reparation for victims to make adequate provisions relating to compensation. The grievous nature of certain offences in Act, especially Section 22(1), makes the punishment provided inadequate. In view of the rampant cases of chemical attacks, such as acids and other substances, offenders under this section should not be given an option of fine. Similarly, the term of imprisonment needs an upward review. The Act is supposed to create victims' support fund to cater for victims of violence and provide for composition, funding, and management of such fund. Section 27 of the Act, which vests jurisdiction in the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, creates crisis of interpretation. Under the provision, the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory needs to be empowered by an act of Parliament to exercise jurisdiction. This is certainly not the legislative intent therein. Consequently, the component requiring empowerment by an act of parliamentary is unnecessary. There are instances of derogatory expressions in the Act. An example is mentally retarded, used in Section 28(4). This needs to be replaced with a subtle legislative language. There are many cases of wrong cross-referencing in the Act. The implication is that the operators of the Act run into difficulties when it comes to implementation. This opens a floodgate of litigation, which can be avoided by legislative action. The use of the term shall and may in some sections of the Act do not convey legislative intent. Those terms are used haphazardly without due consideration of their outcomes. For example, in Section 33(1), it is provided that whenever a court issues a protection order, the court shall make an order: A, authorizing the issue of a warrant for the arrest of the respondent in the prescribed form, and B, suspending the execution of such warrant subject to compliance with any prohibition, condition, obligation, or order imposed under Section 31 of this Act. The implication of the use of shall is a mandatory effect, which could not have been the legislative intent. The word may is more appropriate in this context. In Section 34, a strange commissioner is introduced for the purpose of making an application for variation or setting aside of a protection order. This reduces the provision with confusion, as commissioner does not appear anywhere before and after this section. Besides, commissioner is not defined in the interpretation clause or section. The Act makes reference to legislations that are already repealed. An example is Section 40, which makes reference to the Companies and Allied Matters Act 1990. The current law is Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Mr. President, my highly distinguished colleagues, this Act is notable for its innovations towards addressing violence in all ramifications. However, the several challenges and inadequacies inherent in it call for urgent legislative action to reposition the legislation for efficiency. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, It is because almost all sections of the Act are affected that the bill seeks to repeal and reenact the legislation to avoid making the legislative proposal clumsy. I therefore call on you to give support to this bill in order to achieve the laudable objectives of the legislation. I so submit.
Distinguished Senator Mongono, Chairman, Legal Matters.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mohamed Tai Mongono. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished senators, this bill as presented by Senator Isa Jibril is very apt and relevant in view of the very important lacuna observed in the law as it is now. Of particular attention is the observation made with regard to the issue of menstrual. The observation made was that under the Act, there is no need for concurrence of menstrual. And for any criminal offense to be actionable, there is need for the concurrence of menstrual. And in this particular act, there is no need for concurrence of intention and menstrual. So there is need for it to be amended so that there should be concurrence of intention and menstrual for that offense to be actionable. Then the other observation made is in section 1 of the Act with regards to intention, why it says there is a need to make a distinction between absence of consent and consent obtained by fraud, undue influence, and other unlawful means. For that to be an offense of rape, you must prove that there is carnal knowledge of a woman without her consent and against her will. That this is a necessary ingredient to be able to prove the commission of rape. But in this instance, there is no clear definition of consent under this act. So there is need to amend it to make sure that carnal knowledge was obtained against her consent and against her will, without her consent and against her will. Because a minor, a man can have a carnal knowledge of a minor with her consent, but against her will, because she is not matured enough under the law for a man to have a penetration. So this one also needs to be amended. Then with regard to the issue of punishment, the punishment should be steep enough to deter commission of the offense. I think these are the three observations that I want to make with regard to the need for the amendment of that act. Thank you.
Senator Kawu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My dear distinguished colleagues, I am Suleiman Abdurrahman Kawu Sumaila, representing Kano South Senatorial District, Mr. President from Kano. Mr. President, although we are discussing the general principle of this bill and letter from the tradition, from our tradition, we are going to commit it to the second reading and allow for public hearing. Mr. President, there is a serious problem which I want us to look into. Anything to do with culture, tradition, and belief of the people, this time around, we need to be careful. And we need to take a serious look on the content, wording, and what may likely come out when in the process or after finishing this legislation. Mr. President, my dear respected colleagues, recently there is serious problem, accusation and counter-accusation from so many sources, more especially Islamic or religious, both Christians and Muslim clergies, against what they term as a legislation against our culture and tradition. When the mover or sponsor of the bill leading the debate, I picked one word which may likely dented or cause confusion on what we are doing: male domination. It is very serious. We are people, or this country has a strong, tight, strong belief of our cultural tradition and belief. For example, in my belief, if you say a total domination of male to the female, you need to come clear and explain to me or explain to us what you mean by total domination. Maybe the way you are thinking is different with the way I am thinking. The way you are thinking maybe is different with the way my belief is thinking. For example, in the holy book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he stated, and we believe and we are committed, that ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala an-nisaa. We have so many verses, we have so many traditions from the holy prophet, and I believe our brothers from the other side have their own culture and tradition. It is now we collect this bill. I am advising the Senate and advising us we need to be careful, and we need to take a serious look on this issue. The country is on fire, and the government on its own part, it is doing its own best. And I quite agree with the government explaining it, the meaning and the intent on its mission, ambition on some of the international treaties and conventions. We need to join hands with the executive. We need to join hands with Nigerians to see how we can have a smooth running of governance. I don't want a situation where we will add petrol to the fire. It is very sensitive, and I advise the Senate, we need to be careful. We need to take consideration and cognizance on what is going on recently in Nigeria. I so submit, Mr. President. This is my position. Thank you.
Well, the civil senator Kawu, you spoke for and against, but in between, I understand, general principles of the bill, you spoke for and against, and in between, you also cautioned the Senate on cultural diversities. But one thing is clear, you are not opposed to this bill going for second reading and being subjected to public hearing.
No, sir. Sir, since we are discussing the general principle of the bill, it is now we collected the bill, going through the bill. Allowed us, we, the Senate, or let us go back and study it, then come back again, discuss the general principle of the bill, then commit it to the committee of the whole, because I don't want a situation where we will start kicking against the bush. It is very, very serious. We need to take time and study this is my position.
Yes, this is what I want to advise, that you go and study the bill very well. So during the public hearing, you bring out all the salient points to convince the committee that will handle this before they bring the report to the Senate. For me, we shouldn't even debate it. There are a few things here. The idea of carnal knowledge of a minor are consent in most jurisdictions is immaterial. Even in Nigeria, the penal code also states that consent is immaterial. Because, like Senator Mongunu said, she may give consent, but she's not mature enough to understand what she's doing. So any man that has that wishes to take advantage of her is described in the English language as a pedophile. So it is the place of the Senate, the National Assembly, to protect the girl child and to protect minors in our society. We will take cognizance of cultural diversities, but we must protect our children and the future of the country. Another thing that I find very compelling is this section 27 of the Act, which vests jurisdiction only in the High Court of the FCT. Does it mean that this does not apply generally across Nigeria? The High Court of FCT will mean that if an unwholesome act occurs in Sokoto, the person must bring it to the High Court of FCT. So there are a lot of things that we need to amend and calls for amendment. So it's not cast in concrete. We haven't passed it yet. But all we are doing is just to look at the methodology and to be convinced that it should go for second reading. So I think all the people who have spoken allude to the fact that this bill should actually go for second reading. So those who support that this bill be read a second time say aye. Those again say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 and enact the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Bill 2024 to eliminate violence in private and public life, prohibit all forms of violence against persons, and to provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims and punishment of offenders, and for related matters 2024, SB 368, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 and enact the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, Bill 2024 to eliminate violence in private and public lives, prohibit all forms of violence against persons, and to provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims and punishment of offenders, and for related matters 2024. Second reading taken. This bill is now referred to the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, and Legal Matters to bring back in 6 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is second reading of Chartered Out-of-Home Media Practitioners of Nigeria, Establishment Bill 2024, SB 448. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 16 May 2024. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Abaribe to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Distinguished senators, please, because it's important that as we proceed to pass bills, it's important that as we proceed to pass bills for possible enactment and assent into Act of Parliament, we take our time to listen to even the wordings of the bill. This particular bill that Senator Abaribe is about to give us the general principles before we decide whether we go for second reading or not.
Okay.
Listen to the bill.
Okay.
This is a lead debate on chartered out-of-home media practitioners of Nigeria, Establishment Bill 2024. Please note, the operative word there is chartered out-of-home, chartered out-of-home. So it's not just out-of-home media practitioners bill. This is chartered out-of-home media practitioners bill 22. On that note, I invite the Civil Senator Abaribe to give us the general principles of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, to set the stage, I would like Mr. President and my colleagues to recollect that between 2011 and 2014, that I was the spokesman of this Senate, and that was when the idea of this bill was proposed, and it has taken time, and that on the question of the name, essentially when we discuss, when I read the bill, it will be very clear why it is called out of home. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to present the Chartered Out-of-Home Media Practitioners of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2024 for your esteemed consideration. This bill seeks to establish a regulatory body that will oversee, promote, and enhance the practice of out-of-home media. The bill was read for the first time on Thursday, 16th May, 2024. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the out-of-home media industry encompasses, and Mr. President, this is where you need to know exactly what it takes. It encompasses billboards, transit advertising, and digital displays. And as we know, these play a pivotal role in the country's advertising landscape today. It's of significant importance in that it addresses the multifaceted out-of-home media in our environment and the need to professionalize engagement in the sector. The body will, among other things, advance the profession. The body will promote the art and science of out-of-home media practice, ensuring that it evolves with the technological advancements and international best practices. Standardization, by determining and periodically reviewing the standards of the knowledge and skill acquired by practitioners, the body will uphold high professional standards and ensure that members are well equipped to meet the industry demands. It also will promote competence and professionalism, and foster a culture of excellence, competence, and ethical conduct among the members, thereby enhancing the credibility and effectiveness of the profession. The bill seeks to professionalize engagements in the out-of-home assets, the ownership, and establish or promote standards for all aspects of the practice, including design, production, installation, and maintenance. By doing so, we aim to ensure the quality and uniformity of such assets and enhancing the aesthetics of our environment. The professionalization will also involve rigorous training and certification processes for all stakeholders in the out-of-home sector. This will not only elevate the standard of practice, but also instill a sense of accountability and responsibility among practitioners. To achieve this objective, the bill proposes the creation of a platform to bring together engineers, urban planners, and environmentalists and other experts and professionals in both the public and private sector. It is important to acknowledge that so far, there is no existing platform to create and ensure adherence to standards in the out-of-home media sector. This lack of regulation has led to inconsistent practices, with some practitioners prioritizing profit over quality and environmental considerations. As we see in so many parts of the country, we can take an instance from Lagos, where if you're driving along the Murtala Mohammed International Airport through the local wing, it exposes one to nauseating eyesore of unrestrained and unregulated siting and installation of billboards and all whatnot that have defaced the environment, especially within the premises of Nigerian Air Force Base, Police College, and so forth. The bill aims to fill this regulatory void by establishing clear guidelines and standards that all stakeholders must adhere to. These standards will cover every aspect of out-of-home media, from the design, the production of advertising structures, to their installation and ongoing maintenance. The establishment of the Chartered Out-of-Home Media Practitioner is a vital step towards regulating and promoting a key sector of our economy, the advertising sector. The bill presents a comprehensive approach to addressing the environmental impact of the out-of-home media and the need to professionalize engagements in the sector, creating an environment where our media practitioners can thrive and contribute meaningfully to our economy and society by establishing and promoting the standards and ensure the quality uniformity of out-of-home assets, and thereby enhancing the aesthetics of the environment. Furthermore, it will also create a collaborative platform to bring together the best minds in engineering, urban planning, and other relevant fields to drive innovation and excellence in the sector. So I urge you all, my dear colleagues, Mr. President, that to support this bill as it represents a significant aspect of our advertising industry, and by extension, our nation's economic and social development. Mr. President, I may add that any advertisement you see on your television and in the radio is in-home advertisement. And any advertisement you see outside, either a billboard or, like earlier said, digital display, any transit advertising when you're in a bus or in the train or in the plane, all those things are what is called out of home advertising. And so I urge my colleagues that we support this bill so that we can then. I will also urge Mr. President that if there's need for us to change the name, I think when we go for the second reading, we can find a comprehensive name that will catch everything instead of a three-word name, out of home advertising. Thank you, sir. Thank you, my distinguished colleagues.
Senator Abaribe, are you saying you want to remove the word charter?
No, Mr. President.
Because do you have an existing act of parliament that regulates the activities of the out of home?
Yes, Mr. President. The regulator for all advertising, whether indoors or outdoors, is APCON, Advertising Practitioners of Nigeria, but that is a government agency. This seeks to bring everybody else that is in that sector to come under one professional body.
What will be the criteria? Because for you to be an accountant, it's allowed, but for you to be a chartered accountant, you must go through certain professional studies, examinations, and all that. So if out of home advertisers and media practitioners are already recognized under an act of parliament, for them to now be chartered, it's not just a private sector thing. It is that they must have had additional skill. They must have had years of experience. And then they are now recognized and referred to as chartered accountants or chartered out-of-home practitioners. That's the point I'm asking.
It is in the bill itself and the journal in section 2 and section 3 of the bill, and I think section 6. I think the bill has also been distributed.
No. Do you have the bills? We don't have the bills. Okay, that's why I was asking questions. We don't, not all of us tend to have the bill. That's why I kept asking. But it's okay. If please ensure that the bill is distributed to all, so that they will see the sections and the criteria will be well spelled out. Or now you can become a chartered out-of-home media practitioner. Is there any further comments? Is there any other person who wishes to contribute? Okay. So in the absence of any other contributor, distinguished colleagues, those who are in support that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish chartered out-of-home media practitioners of Nigeria.
Is that working?
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish chartered out-of-home media practitioners of Nigeria and for other related matters 2024. Second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish chartered out-of-home media practitioners of Nigeria and for other related matters 2024. Second reading taken. This bill is now committed to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters to report back in 6 weeks. Clerk of the Senate.
No, not the commission. I'm media, I'm not the commission. Okay, the paragraph.
But well, he just brought it up because we are talking about the media here.
I am media. It's pointed to me as a commission.
No, but you just made a point that media should also be included. So the bill is referred to the committees on establishment and public service matters, the Senate Committee on Information, and the Senate Committee on Media and Publicity, jointly to report back in 6 weeks.
Media.
These are the senators.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Science and Technology on the screening of Dr. Matthew Olumide Adepoju for appointment as Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Abbas Aminu Iyam, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Yes, the Chairman of the committee.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Aminu Iya Abbas, Senator representing Adamawa Central District. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Science and Technology on the confirmation of the nomination of Dr. Matthew Olumide Adepoju for appointment as Director General of National Space Research and Development Agency, NASDA. I so move.
Distinguished Senator Benson Koboi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Benson Friday Koboi, representing Bayelsa Central Senatorial District. I hereby second the motion.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded. Those in support that this August Assembly do receive this committee report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Abbas, distinguished, you may proceed to play the report. Proceed to give us a summarized version of the report you have just laid before us.
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, Mr. Matu Adepoju is a nominee of Mr. President for the appointment as Director General of National Space Research and Development Agency. Section 14(2) of the National Space Research and Development Agency 2010 states that the requirement for appointment as Director General of National Space Research and Development Agency as follows. The Director General shall be a person with a minimum of 15 years demonstrable research experience in science and technology and knowledgeable in space science. Mr. President, the nominee has shown evidence of 17 years of postdoctoral research experience in science, 2 years above the minimum requirement. He was cleared by the Nigerian Police at the Department of State Services as a person eligible for appointment as Director General of National Space Research and Development Agency. The nominee provided evidence of tax clearance, Code of Conduct Bureau acknowledgement slip, Mr. President. Our finding of the committee, Mr. President, the nominee appeared before the committee on the 6th of June, that's Thursday, 2024. The committee chairman, in his remarks, informed the nominee that the screening exercise would be thorough to determine his capabilities of successfully hold the office of the Director General of National Space Research and Development Agency. During the screening, the nominee was thoroughly interrogated on general matters related to space science and technology. His response to the issues raised was satisfactory. He displays collective expertise in space science and technology, as well as demonstrated a high level of preparedness and capability to head the space agency. Based on his extraordinary performance, academic qualification, research pedigree, experience in public service and private sector, the committee wished to report that the nominee is capable to handle tasks of the Office of the Director General of National Space Research and Development Agency. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to bring to your note there is no petition against the nominee submitted to the committee. Our recommendation, the nominee who was fully screened by the committee in line with the criteria contained in the Act establishing the agency, the Senate Standing Rules 2003 as amended, and the principles of the committee. Therefore, the committee is satisfied with the qualification, performance, and suitability of the nominee for the position of Director General of National Space Research and Development Agency. From the foregoing, the committee is convinced that the nominee for the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, Dr. Matthew Olumide Adepoju, is eminently qualified to hold the office as he is nominated. Accordingly, the committee hereby recommend Dr. Matthew Olumide Adepoju to the Senate for confirmation. At our prayers, the Senate do confirm the nomination of Dr. Matthew Olumide Adepoju as Director General of National Space Research and Development Agency. Appreciation to the Senate President and the principal officers at the entire State Distribution Centers for continuous support to the committee and the confidence, and find the committee worthy to serve on this assignment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Dismissed Senator Karimi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My colleagues, my name is Karimi Sunday Steve. I represent the people of Kogi West. I hereby rise to second the motion that the nomination be approved by the Senate.
Distinguished colleagues, we have heard from the chairman of the Committee on Science and Technology, moving a motion for the Senate to receive the report and accordingly consider the nomination of the Director General of this agency. Those in support that we do receive this report say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate, you may wish to move a motion for us to revert to the Committee of the Whole to consider this report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that the Senate resolve to Committee of the Whole to enable us to consider the report. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I second the motion that the Senate resolve into the Committee of the Whole to consider the report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded, and this Senate will revert into the Committee of the Whole to consider this report. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the clerk. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of Dr. Matthew Olumide Adepoju for appointment as Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency, NASRA? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that we go back to plenary to enable the President to enable the Chairman report progress. I so move.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I second the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary to enable the Chair to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do revert to plenary for the chair to report progress. Those in support of the motion as moved and second, they say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Science and Technology on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, NASRA, and approved the nomination of Dr. Matthew Olumide Adeboju as the Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, NASRA. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Dr. Matthew Olumide Adeboju for appointment as Director General National Space Research and Development Agency, NASRA? Those in favor of the confirmation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, in line with your decision, the nomination of Dr. Matthew Olumide Adeboju for appointment as Director General, National Space Research and Development Agency, NASRA, is hereby confirmed. Let me thank the chairman of the Committee on Science and Technology, my own brother Abbas, and all members of his committee for a job well done. Very thorough job, very beautiful report, no encumbrances, and the man seems to be a square peg in a square hole. So I thank you for the service to the Senate and by implication the service to your country. I congratulate the nominee who has just been confirmed, and I wish him well in a new endeavor in the service of his fatherland. I thank you all. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. The fourth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary on the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology, SAFE, Zamfara State, Establishment Bill 2024, SB 161. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Tuesday, 28 November 2023. Mr. President, you may wish to invite most distinguished Senator Banigo Ipalibo Hari, chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Ipalibo Banigo.
Senate President, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Dr. Ipalibo Hari Banigo, representing the good people of Rivers West Senatorial District. I rise to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary on the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology, SAFE, Zamfara State. I so move.
Distinguished Senator Bilbius.
Support this one. Thank you very much, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. I rise to support the motion moved by my sister, distinguished Senator Opavio. Thank you, sir.
That is why it is always important that we listen very attentively when colleagues are speaking and when proceedings are going on. Distinguished Senator Bilbius, you may wish to rephrase your secondment. Yeah, seconding the motion moved by Distinguished Senator Banigo.
Distinguished colleagues.
There is a motion on ground that the Senate do receive the report on the upgrade of the College of Health Sciences and Technology in Zamfara State to the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology at Safe, Zamfara State, to provide full-time courses in health sciences and technology and other fields of studies, and to produce high-quality medical professionals with broad knowledge, skills, and value to strengthen institutional capacity for disease control and surveillance, as well as bridging the gap in medical research, and to make provisions for the general administration of the university and other related matters therewith. 2024. The report is has been moved that the Senate should receive the report, and you are to second the motion because it involves Zamfara State, and I know you are very passionate about the development of Zamfara State. It's your bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Maybe I was carried away. So I stand to, Mr. President and the distinguished colleagues, I stand to support the motion moved by my sister that a report, the Senate should do receive the report by the Health Committee on Federal University Health Science and Technology SAPE. I support, sir.
Thank you.
So, second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved by Senator Banigo and supported by Distinguished Senator Bilbius that this Senate do receive the report on this establishment of this federal university in Safe. Those in support that the Senate do receive and consider this report say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed to lay your report. Distinguished Senator Banigo, you may wish to summarize your report and particularly go into your findings and conclusions.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at its sitting on 28 November 2023, read for the second time the bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology, SAFE, Zamfara State. and refer same to the Joint Committees on Health, Secondary and Tertiary, and the Tertiary Education, and TED Fund for further legislative action. This bill, sponsored by our Senator, distinguished Senator Bilbis, seeks to upgrade the College of Health Sciences and Technology, SAFE, Zamfara State, to the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology, SAFE, Zamfara State, to provide full-time courses in health sciences and technology and other related fields of studies to produce high-quality medical professionals with broad knowledge, skills, and value, and to strengthen institutional capacity for disease control and surveillance, as well as bridging the gap in medical research, and to make provisions for the general administration of the university and other related matters. The methodology is as clearly elaborated, and the committees observed that Nigeria's population of doctors and medically trained personnel is far below global standards. This institution will increase the human resources required to meet the growing needs, including addressing infrastructural deficits in the health sector. When established, the university will attract people to the state by providing higher educational, academic, and professional programs for those seeking to pursue degrees in health sciences, technology, and related fields. The Federal University of Health Science and Technology, when established, will help address the dearth, the scarcity in admission of students aspiring to study health sciences and technology in Nigeria, and supply the much needed manpower in the healthcare services, as well as create an avenue for income generation, self-sustenance, and boost the economy of the country. When passed into law, the huge gap in doctor-patient ratio, as well as in medical research and technology, will be abridged. The university will also advance healthcare delivery in Nigeria through research, innovation, training, and development of the health sector. The committees therefore recommend the establishment of the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology in Safe, Zamfara State. After a clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, which is made up of 26 clauses, 3 schedules, a short title, and an explanatory memorandum, the committee recommends as follows: amended clauses 1, brackets 1, retained clauses 2 to 26, and short title and explanatory memorandum. Your Excellency, the Senate President, distinguished colleagues, the committee urge you to give this bill accelerated passage it deserves. Its passage into law is apt, as evidenced in the wide support it received at the public hearing. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, the committee would like to thank the Senate President, Deputy Senate President, the entire Senate leadership, and all distinguished colleagues for the opportunity given to serve in this capacity. I so submit, sir.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator Shehu Buba.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Shehu Buba, representing good people of Bauchi South. I rise to second that this bill should be read for the second time. I saw Moved.
Distinguished Senator Bilbis. Not, I mean, just to make comments and urge the Senate to do the needful for you. It's your bill. It's your bill. But if you have nothing to add, I'll put the question. You have nothing to add?
Mr. President, my own is to thank you and thank the leadership and thank the committee for your job well done and my colleagues for your job well done. I'm sure my colleagues would approve the report, sir.
Thank you for your contribution. Distinguished colleagues, may I invite the leader of the Senate to move a motion for the Senate to resolve into committee of the whole to consider clause by clause the bill before us.
Thank you so much, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second the motion that Senate resolves into the committee of the whole to consider the report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we do resolve into the committee of the whole to consider the clause by clause of this report so submitted. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We proceed to the committee of the whole. Distinguished colleagues, Federal University of Health Sciences and Technologies survey, Zamfara State Examining Bill 2024, SB 161. Long title in page 1. Those in support of the long title in page 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Number of clauses 27. Those in support of the number of clauses say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Interpretation clauses. Clause 26. This is on page 19 of the bill. Those in support of this interpretation clause say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The short title is in clause 27 or page 20. Those in support of the short title say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The schedules, pages 1 to 3 or page 20 to 27. Those in support of the schedules page 35. Those in support of the explanatory memorandum say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, very distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that the Senate resolve back into plenary to enable the chairman report progress. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, I second the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary to enable the chair report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved and seconded that this August Assembly do revert to plenary for the chair to report progress. Those in support of the motion and move and seconded say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We revert to plenary. Senator Bibius, I'm about to report progress. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary Education on the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology Survey, Zamfara State, Establishment Bill 2024, and approved as follows. Long title as recommended. Number of clauses 1 to 25 as recommended. Interpretation clause 26 as recommended. Short title clause 27 as recommended. Schedules 1 to 3 as recommended. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate, you may wish, Leader of the Senate, you may wish to move a motion for the third reading of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that the bill be now read for the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader, you may wish to second the motion that this bill be now read a third time.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second the motion that the bill be read a third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this bill be now read a third time. Those in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology, SAFE, Zamfara State, as a training institution for the development of medical and health sciences, and to make comprehensive provisions for the management and administration of the university and for related matters 2024. Third reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technologies, SAFE, in Zamfara State, as a training institution for the development of medical and health sciences, and to make comprehensive provisions for the management and administration of the university and for related matters 2024. Third reading taken. Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Health Sciences and Technology Survey in Zamfara State as a training institution for the development of medical and health sciences, and to make comprehensive provisions for the management and administration of the university and for related matters 2024. Third reading taken and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators,
The fifth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Karimi Sunday Steve on the urgent need to address food insecurity and market exploitation of consumables in Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Karimi Sunday Steve to move the motion.
Distinguished Senator Karimi or Steve Karimi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My colleagues, my name is Karimi Sunday Steve. I represent the people of Kogi West. My motion is on the urgent need to address the food insecurity and market exploitation of consumables in Nigeria. The Senate notes that in the last few months, the prices of goods and household consumables have been on abysmal rise in the country, leading to a high rate of inflation, weakened buying power, and general worsening of living conditions of vast majority of Nigerians. Further note that the latest data by Nigeria National Bureau of Statistics shows that food inflation in the country skyrocketed to 40.66% on a yearly basis, a significant increase from the 24.82% recorded in May 2023. Aware that the market price of food items such as beans, maize, rice, paddy, yam, tomatoes, and onions, which initially rose by about 40% after the removal of petroleum subsidy, has now increased to over 100%, some to 300%, without any attributable reason for the increase in prices. Further aware that although the insecurity in food producing regions, bad roads, increase in the cost of transportation attributable to the removal of fuel subsidy and depreciation of the value of naira are possible factors that have contributed to the increase in prices of food items, household commodities, and consumables. The percentage of increase in the cost of transportation and some other factors listed above is significantly less than the percentage increase in the current prices of goods all over the country. Concerned that the greater percentage of the increase in price of food items and consumables in the country is not only due to these factors, but to the sales of merchant traders and retailers to make supernormal profit, while they excuse the hike in prices on these factors, that is depreciation of naira, increase in prices of petroleum products, and insecurity in farming region, thereby heaping the blame on the federal government. Note, there's a general attitude of get rich quickly or get rich by all means, leading many Nigerians to jettison being their brother's keeper and exploiting one another to make abnormal profits. This attitude has been justified on the basis that many members of the political class, technocrats, corporate allies have helped themselves with public funds without any repercussion in law. Nigerian traders have thus reported to price gouging to maximize profits. Further notes that there are reports that farming communities in the border regions with other countries prefer to sell their food items abroad to these neighboring countries rather than domestically to the hinterland, thereby increasing local food insecurity. Concludes that all effort made by the current federal executive to arrest the consistent increase in food inflation have not yielded the desired result. there is need to be more pragmatic about addressing food insecurity, curbing other farmer crises, kidnapping for ransom and terrorism, and ensure the development of a viable national commodity board to regulate the prices of grains and ensure the elimination of artificial contribution to food and commodity inflation in Nigeria. Accordingly, resolve to 1. Call on National Orientation Agency and the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation to come up with strategic program on unity, contentment, and integrity in Nigeria. Urge the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council to come up with pragmatic ideas and oversight to eliminate artificial hikes in prices of food items, goods, and consumables in Nigeria. 3, also call on the federal government to, as a matter of urgency, address the issues of food insecurity in the country and arrest other farmer crises, cattle rustling, and other forms of insecurity militating against food sufficiency in Nigeria. 4, invite the Federal Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy to address the Senate on the Congress of the Nation's fiscal and monetary policy. 5, also invite the Minister of Agriculture to address the Senate on quick win, medium and long-term efforts of the current administration to reposition the nation's agricultural sector and the milestone of the efforts. And finally, all the Nigeria Immigration Service and Nigeria Consular Service to intensify effort in border control to combat and prosecute smugglers of food items to neighboring countries. I hereby move, sir.
Distinguished Senator Ali Ndume.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume. I'm a co-sponsor.
Please, the leader of the Senate, he wants to move a motion for extension of time. Continue.
Do you need to extend the time?
Distinguished Senator Ali Ndume. Well, I thought that the leader should do the needful in line with the standing order.
Mr. President, as rise pursuant to Order 8 sub 3 of our rules, to move that the Senate does extend time to enable us sit beyond 2 p.m. to finish all we have on the other paper. I so move, Mr. President.
The minority leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I support the motion that the Senate extends time beyond 2 o'clock, sits beyond 2 o'clock, to enable it conclude items on the order paper. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, despite the initial resistance, the leadership has moved a motion and seconded by the minority leader that we do extend time to enable us to sit beyond 2 o'clock. Those in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The distinguished Senator Ali Ndume, the Chief Whip of the Senate, you were on the floor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, I'm still Mohamed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South and a co-sponsor of this very important motion. As I stand to second the motion, I want to bring to the attention of dear distinguished colleagues the importance of this motion. In March 2024, edition of CADE Harmonize. CADE Harmonize is a unified tool for conceptual analysis of acute food and nutrition insecurity in the Sahel and West Africa. They are a very credible source of information. In their March publication, they said Nigeria is very likely to experience highest session of food insecurity, even though globally, but most severely. Currently, there are 4 countries, including Sudan and some others, that are facing very serious food insecurity. And Nigeria is added to this list this year by International Rescue Committee as one of the hotspots for food insecurity. Action Against Hunger, World Food Programme, FOA, also indicated that over 32 million people are expected to face critical hunger crisis and emerging level between June and August. And I don't know about some other colleagues, but there in the north, or here in the north, we have started seeing it visibly. People are hungry, very, very hungry. Many cannot go to their farms. All of us know this. In the north central, the northeast, and the northwest. Even in southeast, we still have crisis among the farmers and herdsmen. Even in southwest, we still have this crisis. As it is now, a bag of rice is selling at about 100,000. A bag of maize, the same thing. Even prices of tomatoes, onions, and other basic food is high. Distinguished colleagues, as representatives of the people, we need to do something, or at least say something. That's why I co-sponsored this motion, and I believe all of us here are concerned because we are talking to one another. Let's do something. The prayers of the motion is quite clear. If there need, should be added. And because we have other motions to take on, I'm suggesting that we look at this and go to the prayers. Support the motion wholeheartedly, go to the prayers, add what we need to add, and emphasize that this issue of food crisis should be taken more seriously, because this is the first time Nigeria is being included in countries that are likely to face very, very serious food crisis. With that, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I hereby second this motion as ably moved by Steve. Thank you.
Well, distinguished Senator Ali Ndume, you are a co-sponsor of the motion. You and Senator Karimi. And so your submission is well appreciated and noted. But my opinion is that it was a calamity foretold when the bandits were pursuing people from the farms, when the headers were pursuing people from North Central, and bandits were pursuing people from Katsina and Zamfara from going into the farms. And of course, Borno, people moved to IDP camps and abandoned the farms. Tomato, wheat, millets, and all sorts of things that were being produced. We have had almost 9 years of farmers not being able to access their farms. It was expected that after a while, there will be serious scarcity of food in the country. So, so you are 100% right that Nigeria is now included among the countries that will experience very acute food shortage. And there's no doubt that the government must rise to the occasion. Distinguished Senator Warada, you tried to explain to me some of the actions being taken by the government.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I remain Senator Ahmed Wadada, Sarkin Yakin Kefi, and the only chartered politician in Nigeria, representing Nasarawa West Senatorial District.
Have we passed the Chartered Institute of Politicians? Has the bill gone through second reading? Chartered Institute of Politicians Bill in 2024.
Is the president giving me you want me to explain why I am a chartered politician?
No. Go straight to the issues.
I was honored by all the chartered institutes when I was chairing the House Committee on Capital Market and Institutions. So anyway, the matter at hand is a very, very serious matter. Nigerians are very patient people and very enduring people. But no people can be as that much patient under hunger. Nor can they be that enduring under hunger. And as much as we are all aware of the issues that inform today the situation of food production in Nigeria, we should as well commend the government of the day for taking a very serious step, which is exempting all tariffs on imported food items. All food items to be imported in the country are now exempted from payment of all kinds of tariff, taxes, and what have you. This is quite commendable. And to support what the government is, or the measure it has taken, and to buttress what Senator Ndume said, that as representatives of the people, let me say that I don't see us as just representatives. We are responsive and responsible representatives. And for us to depict that by our action or actions, we are all leaders and critical stakeholders in this country. Whatever we all need to do at our various senatorial districts or in our social relationships and even economic relationships, we must at all times see that we add value to the efforts put in place to reduce, if not to eliminate completely, the issue of banditry, the issue of kidnapping, the issue of, all the issues that have contributed to the low level of food production in Nigeria. Mr. President, I so contribute. Thank you.
This is Senator Ahmed Lawan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. I'm Ahmed Lawan. I represent Yobe North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me commend the movers of this motion and also add here that patience, tolerance is, they are both elastic, but they are not eternally elastic. Our students are facing real hunger. I traveled to 2 states last week, in the north particularly, and I've seen firsthand how people, especially those who are neither in the civil service nor in any business, common everyday citizens, are suffering, fighting, struggling to have food at least once in a day. Under normal circumstances, Mr. President, in the rainy season, from maybe June up to September or October, when there will be harvest of new foodstuff, prices escalate. Prices of foodstuff. Now, we don't even have. That's the truth. Mr. President, in today's national dailies, the executive arm of government is saying, is considering reducing or removing taxes on imported foodstuff. Mr. President, here's the catch. This Senate must engage the executive immediately. What are the issues? Which taxes are they talking about? Because we should be seen to be doing the right thing. We have really little or nothing in our food reserve across the country. And nobody should come and tell us they will distribute foodstuff from our silos. The silos are empty, Mr. President. So it means we have to import food. And if we have to import, it means we need foreign exchange. And that is scarce. We have to engage with administration. We have to help the administration. Mr. President, we are the most vulnerable in the leadership arrangements of this country, members of the National Assembly. Everybody looks up to senators or members of the House of Reps. In fact, people see senators like the messiahs. Any problem, they say, go for a senator. So if we don't take immediate action, and our citizens, under this situation of increased fuel price, increased electricity price, increased everything, and we are yet to get the right measures to provide cushions for our citizens, we wouldn't like the kind of thing that we see in our streets. And it is time that we take every possible action together with the executive arm of government to ensure that food flood our country, the right food. Importation, government must be entirely responsible, because we cannot take people for granted for too long. We have come almost to the end of their patience. And I think the elasticity is now going to snap if we are not careful. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Then, from even the submission of Senator Wadada, it's very clear that the government feels the same way you feel and the same way we all feel, that Nigerians cannot suffer from hunger while the government has the capacity to ameliorate the situation. By removing import duties on all the food items, it's a way to flood the market and flood the country with food, with cheap and affordable food, so that nobody will say, because I paid tariff or I paid import duty or paid levies while bringing the food in, that's why I'm putting a high price on them. So that's only one step. The other aspect of it is that Senator Mustafa has just informed me that this morning he showed me videos of tens and tens of hundreds of trucks moving from Indorama and other places with fertilizer to see how we can take advantage of this window before the major rains ravage the situation, to plant things that are short-term based. So in your various senatorial districts, each senator, I don't know how many bags of fertilizer per senator? 1,200 will be given for immediate distribution across the senatorial district. So those things are moving now. The delay was as a result of the need to get the. So we must also assist our people to produce. Don't worry about it. If you don't have it, you tell your constituents they've not brought your own. It is not because the Senate President announced it that your house will be flooded to give fertilizer. But what I'm saying is, he has explained that it was because of approval, because of security reasons, they needed to be sure that the fertilizers will not enter into wrong hands. So, but they have started moving them today. And I'm saying in essence that we must find every means available to get to the farm. The Senator Alero, you may just make your contribution, then we go into the prayers.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Please,
let me just point to...
treat it expeditiously.
Yeah.
Once you get information that it has arrived, distribute it immediately so that people can make use of them before the farming season gets out of hand.
Thank you, Mr. President. But before I contribute to this motion, let me correct the impression given by
Senator
the Chairman, Senate Committee on Agriculture. The fertilizer given to the senatorial district, it has to be distributed to the senators. What is happening is that only governors are given the fertilizer. Senators are yet to get a single bag of fertilizer. And there is need.
It is going to the
Mr.
governor.
President, there is need for you to intervene, to call the Minister of Agriculture and tell him to immediately authorize the distribution of fertilizer to all the senatorial districts. This is the season we need the fertilizer. If it doesn't come now, it's as good as not having it at all. The rainfall is now falling both in the north and the south. And farmers need fertilizer badly. So we need the fertilizer now. Otherwise, it will be useless after this month. So, having contributed,
Only 2 trucks.
only 2 trucks are given to the senators. Only 2 trucks.
You have not received them.
We have not received any single truck. Only 2 trucks.
No, I'm saying that it is
some of us have about 10 local governments, some 8 local governments, some 6 local governments.
I have 10. I'm saying it is proposed. You have not yet seen them. Because I've been following up with Senator Mustafa.
But Mr. President, this issue of fertilizer has been on the drawing board for the last 3 months. For the last 3 months. You could recall the meeting we had with you in your office together with the governor of Central Bank. It was decided that fertilizer should be given to the senators so that they can distribute to their constituents. For more than 3 months now, we are not seeing a single bag.
Please.
So it is now time for you to act.
Senator Alero,
yeah.
I have been acting. No. Let Senator Mustafa just give you I don't like reporting effort. I like reporting results.
Yeah.
So I'm now reporting results because I didn't want to go into effort. Give us just 1 minute. Let him just tell you what was militating
Can I
against
contribute to the motion before that?
you will, but let him just
Okay,
give you information. Senator Mustafa, very quickly.
Your Excellency, the Senate President, distinguished colleagues, it's unfortunate that the fertilizer distribution had to be delayed, but I have at every point in time briefed the Senate President on the current status of what has been happening. We had hitches from the NSA's office. They stopped every truck of fertilizer from moving out because of the security implication. They had to certify clear before they will allow the trucks to move out. And as of today, I just showed the Senate President, the trucks are being loaded. They will be moved to the various states. So I want us to exercise patience again. The issue of governors getting fertilizer before us, some of
Talk to the Senate President. No, stay there. Because if you are answering our colleagues,
So-
you will be distracted.
So, sir, I want us to exercise patience. By weekend, I'm sure everybody or most people will have received their supplies. Please.
You are guaranteeing that by this weekend,
Yes, sir.
most senatorial districts he's the chairman. He's been following up and briefing me, and he's saying that he has shown me the trucks moving. And it's not as if the trucks are moving from one location to your senatorial district. They are moving from different places. Like the one from South are moving from Indorama. Am I right? And he showed me, and they are moving, and they have your contact persons. So it's left to you to report to us latest Tuesday if you have received them. So for me, I'm saying that this is an emergency. The food situation is an emergency. We must help our people. And part of it is also to make sure it's not just providing food today, it's being able to plant to make sure that latest October, November, we have excess food in the market. Because Nigerians must feed. Everybody's concerned. The primary role of government is to ensure the welfare and security of the citizens. And that is the reason why we are here. I think so if we give you information, just allow this weekend to pass. If you have not received it or your contact persons have not received by this weekend, then you bring it up on Tuesday and we know what to do. We may have to summon the Minister of Agriculture, the Governor of Central Bank, and all those involved to come before us because we want to make sure that we nip this issue in the bud. Like I said, it wasn't caused by the current administration. It's a culmination of at least 10 years of insecurity that stopped the farmers from going into their farms as a result of killings, kidnappings, and other forms of banditry, including headers, farmers' crisis. But here we are now. We must take emergency steps. The government is doing its best by ensuring that any food item that enters the country, zero levy, in order to make sure that people have food. And then, of course, the distribution of these fertilizers across is to enhance production, at least within this period, because after this, they will be useless. So let us make sure that these things are there between now and next week so that we can distribute to our constituents. And we shouldn't keep them. As soon as they come, distribute them. Let the farmers make use of them. So it's a wonderful motion, and I would like us to go straight into the prayers so that we can take the last motion of the day. Prayers. Okay, please, the Deputy Senate President has just informed me that actually let you know that all states of the Federation are being provided with 60 trucks of fertilizer outside what is being given to the senators. So that when they are going to distribute, in case in case most of those states, in case most of your states, I'm talking to my brothers on the left-hand side, in case most of your states are not APC compliant, don't let your citizens not think that they bought those things. Those things were provided by the federal government of APC, because APC is for all. Federal government of Nigeria, because APC that won the federal government.
Prayers.
APC is for all. Federal government of Nigeria, because APC is for all. We are showing love to all states, and all states should also reciprocate by making sure that these things are distributed to farmers without going to claim credit. Distinguished colleagues, further clarification. Whilst the state governors, while the states are being given up to 60 trucks, am I right? Across board. Senator, come. Chairman agree. How many trucks to the states? Average.
I mean, like you said, 60 or so. Few senators have just called me that they've been called to say they are going to deliver fertilizer like Agadaga and Kawa, but they gave them one figure and they said they should not accept less than 1,200. So it's already happening.
Well, I don't know why Senator Mustafa has not been able to explain. Senator Mustafa, if you listen very well, come close to me. Distinguished colleagues, this is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Agriculture. If he has difficulty explaining from there, I will not have difficulty re-echoing what he has said. He's saying that about 60 trucks are going to each of the states through their governors. That's what he said. So I don't want tomorrow the governors will come and tell me that I made a statement that yes, and this is through their governors, irrespective of political party. So listen. That is the information that I have. This is Senator Goje. You know they like me, quoting me. They will say Akpabio again. This is from the Senate Committee Chairman on Agriculture, not from Senator Akpabio. That irrespective of political party, each state governor is going to get at least 60 trucks immediately. And the reason why they are giving to senators 2 trucks is because some of the state governors and House of Rep members, 1 truck for your constituents, is because some of the state governors are not in the same party with you. So they may get and they may not really look at your constituents. So for some of you, it's important that you also have something to share to your constituents. Your own will be 2 trucks, 1,200. House of Rep members will be 1 truck, 600. Now, this information is from the chairman of the Senate Committee on Agriculture, and then backed up by the Deputy Senate President. This information is not from the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. So I don't want tomorrow now. I'll see headline: Governors blast Akpabio. I have not said anything about governors. I have only re-echoed the come, Chairman Agriculture. Mustafa, you are still doing individual. Listen, sorry, I'm going. You are doing individual explanation. I'm saying, explain to the Senate that you are the one who told me. Yes, and Deputy Senate President yourself, that I have said nothing against governors. So prayers so we can close. Gentlemen of the press, the gallery, it is not Senator Godswill Akpabio. that gave this information. Oh. I'm re-echoing the voices of the Senate Committee Chairman on Agriculture and the Deputy Senate President, that irrespective of political parties, all the states through their governors are getting 60 trucks, the senators are getting 2 trucks, and the 2 trucks amount to 1,200, and then the House of Rep members are getting 1 truck. If the point of order relates, point of order relates to what we are discussing, yes, noted. But as soon as we finish with the prayers, prayer 1, call on the National Orientation Agency and the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation to come up with strategic programs on unity, containment, and integrity in Nigeria. Is this prayer 1? Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate. Senator Ndume, you are part of you co-sponsored this bill.
Hello?
Can you read your prayer 1, please?
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the first prayer is as is written: to call on the National Orientation and the Federal Ministry of Information and the National Orientation to come up with strategic programs for unity, contentment, and integrity. I don't think the prayer is out of place, but I want to say that...
But we are talking about food insecurity.
I'm coming.
So why do they have to talk about contentment and unity?
No, the prayers are there for members to decide. That is it. But I'm even saying that all the prayers should be consolidated into one. That is, the federal government should wake up and address immediately the issue of, or the threat of food insecurity by taking appropriate measures and accordingly informing Nigerians on each step the executive takes to address this impending danger of food crisis.
So you are amending,
yes, consolidating
the prayers,
yes,
to consolidate the prayers into one.
Yes.
Urge the federal government of Nigeria
to, as a matter of urgency, address the impending
food scarcity,
food crisis in the country, and informing Nigerians appropriately as to the measures taken. I so move.
Okay, so any seconder? Any seconder? No seconder. Who?
I can't go without
okay.
seconder.
The seconder.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Peter Onyekachi Nwebonye. I rise to second the motion as moved by the Deputy Whip, consolidating all the prayers to one. I so second.
They are consolidating into one as. Repeat.
Consolidating the prayers into one, that federal government should do everything possible to address food insecurity in Nigeria and to brief Nigerians as to measures so far taken. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been consolidated into one. The prayers have been consolidated into one. By the prayers have been, clerk, please note, the prayers have been consolidated into one by the Chief Whip and seconded by the Deputy Majority Whip, that we should urge the federal government of Nigeria to, as a matter of urgency, take measures to fight the impending food insecurity. The food security. The food security in the country, the current food the current food insecurity, in the country. Please, just go on. Don't mind those who are talking. Listen to me. Food, food insecurity in the country. Outline measures to combat the situation, and thereafter address the Nigerian people on steps taken. Address the Nigerian people on steps taken to ameliorate the situation. No, no, no. I'm using the English to consolidate your consolidation. Those in support of this consolidation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Let me thank the movers of the motion and to say that we have consolidated all the prayers into one, and that we will expect to hear from the federal government. And I believe that we said they should take measures as a matter of urgency to address the current food insecurity, and then thereafter address the nation on the steps taken in order to, of course, that will also assuage the fear and feelings of the people. So I'm very happy with what we have done. So it's a one-line prayer which has been consolidated. So I thank the movers of the motion, so Senator Karimi, Senator Alin Dume, and I also thank Senator Mwebe for seconding this, and I thank my colleagues for their contributions. And I think this issue is rested until we hear from the federal government. The Leader of the Senate, the last item, because of we're already almost 2:30 and we have other issues. With last item on the agenda, no, we don't step it down, move. We are going to take it.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, the sixth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Ogoshi Onawo Mohammed on urgent need to halt violation of the National Film and Video Censors Board Act. Mr. President, you may wish to invite most distinguished Senator Ogoshi to move the motion.
Distinguished Senator Ogoshi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Mohammed Ogoshi Onao. I represent Nasarawa South. Urgent need to halt violation of the National Film and Video Censors Board Act. The Senate notes that the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, directed the implementation of the Oresanya report in February this year. Also note that Oresanya Committee was set up by President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and the committee's report was submitted in 2012. The report on public sector reforms revealed that there were 541 statutory and non-statutory federal government parastatals, commissions, and agencies. Aware that the 800-page report recommended that 263 of the statutory agencies be slashed to 161, 38 agencies be scrapped, 52 be merged, and 14 be reverted to departments in various ministries. Also aware that media reports that the Presidential Committee, under the chairmanship of the Secretary to the government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, has now commenced the implementation of the report. Further aware that a memo signed by the SGF directed to the Honorable Minister of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy mandated the immediate dissolution of the National Film and Video Censors Board, which will now be integrated as a department within the ministry instead of operating as a separate federal agency. Concerned that the directive violates the National Film and Video Censors Board Act CAF 40, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 as amended. The process of winding down an agency of government which came into force through an act of parliament should first commence by the repeal of the act establishing the said agency. The Oresanya report is a committee report that should not override the act of parliament. Notes with deep concern that the ministry was instructed to complete the administrative and financial processes to wind down the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board within 3 weeks, with effect from June 21st to 2024, and report back to the SGF's office within the first month after it became a department of the ministry. And conscious that this abuse of rule of law, if goes unchecked, will become a bad precedent going forward. There is therefore the need to promptly check this illegality by insisting that the right procedure for winding down a statutory agency like that of the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board be followed. The Senate accordingly resolves to call on the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and the Honorable Minister of Culture and the Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy to suspend the wind down of the National Film and Video Censors Board forthwith. Also call on the Office of the SGF and other relevant agencies of government to immediately commence the process of repealing any act establishing the National Film and Video Censors Board if need be, and urge the federal government to continue with the winding down of National and Video Censors Board and other agencies only when Mr. President signs the repeal act of such an agency. I so move. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Oshomole.
Mr. President, sir, thank you for the privilege. I am unable to support the idea. Everything in its totality as captured in this motion, because our commitment to cut down costs, to reduce waste in the public sector, I think it's something that we all share. And when the executive have taken decision, it's not abolishing the responsibilities of the film industry. It's probably reducing it as a department so that you can cut down your overhead and save money for other things. Just earlier, before this one now, we spent time debating what government should do to ameliorate the current food crisis. We just have limited resources at every point in time. So steps be taken by the executive to give effect to the much talked about Orosaye report. I don't think that this Senate should block that effort. When it has been done, I believe at the appropriate time, the executive can forward if it is necessary. If it is necessary. You can have a law say create something, but what is the penalty if it is not created? I suggest that given our commitment to cut down public expenditure and the fact that we all share the idea that we should rationalize multiple agencies
so that resources can be better applied where they are needed most. It will be a sad day if we appear to do anything that will revise what the executive is trying to do in giving effect to the recommendations of the Orosai report, which most Nigerians accept and expect the president to carry to conclusion. Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President, sir. I think Mr. Oshomole did not understand.
Senator Olamilekan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, very distinguished colleague. Mr. President, I want to commend the mover of this motion. He has done a very, very solid job. I am one of the strong advocates of the implementation of Orosai panel report. I am in total support of the implementation of that report, and I want to commend the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because the quest to implement this report has been on for several years, since the report was first released. But it was during the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that the implementation is taking place. And I commend the President for that, because without implementation of this cost, these multiple agencies, even which functions override each other, will not be streamlined. So taking the bull by the horn, streamlining this agency is a right step in the right direction. But what is the clause there? The mover of the motion make it loud and clear. It's not against the implementation of the report. What is against is that let the rule of law be followed to the latter. That while this repealing is going on, this streamlining is going on, that we should formally be notified by the president, informing us that decision or action has been taken on this implementation of this unnecessary panel report, affecting the following agencies of the government, so that on our own part here, we can repeal all those laws. Because if these agencies were merged and the law is still in existence, there will be conflict of interest. Some people will work in accordance with the law as passed by the National Assembly, not knowing that that agency itself does no longer exist as an agency, but rather a department in the government agency or the ministries that is affected. So, Mr. President, I agree in totality and I second this motion moved by my brother, Senator Onao, that we should follow it to the latter. We are in support of the action of the president streamlining this agency, but the needful must be done in trying to take steps to repeal those laws so that the work can be concluded once and for all. Thank you, Mr. President. I so submit.
Senator Blank.
President of the Senate, my colleagues, I'm Senator Dicket Blank, Senator representing Plateau Central. Mr. President of the Senate and my colleagues, I rise to commend the mover of this motion. I believe that the mover of this motion is also in tune of the streaming of MDAs and agencies of government. But what he wants us to know is that we cannot be working against the act establishing these agencies. And I believe that all of us believe in the streaming. And as soon as we are all in tune and a bill for repeal is brought to us, I'm very certain that this patriotic assembly, Senate, will read and fast track the repealing of the law. So the issue here is that we are with Mr. President, we are with the system, we all agree that there is a need to reduce. But if there is a law on ground, there is a need for us to repeal properly and on time to ensure that the criminalization comes without any act that is against the law establishing the agencies. So I support it, and I think that by doing that, we'll succeed, sir.
Senator Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East. I stand also to support the mover of this motion, because if we are going to scrap agencies that have existing laws there's always need for us to repeal those laws and then enact another law that will tally with where they will be functioning, so that they cannot just be functioning in vacuum. Film and censor industry, censor industry in this country need real laws that will govern them, so that against all this piracy and the rest of it. But if they are department as well, those laws can be enacted to go in line with whichever ministries they are domiciled to, so that we don't create a situation whereby we are just making them departments and they are not protected by laws, just as it is internationally. So I believe that what Senator Nao brought is in line with the direction of this government. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Wasiu Oshilogun.
Thank you, Mr. President, sir. I also right to give my total and unalloyed support to this motion. What this motion tries to say is that the different arms of government must synergize, since most actions of government cannot be done by one arm alone. When we make laws there, we still take it to the presidency to sign off on. These actions of Rosoye's report, very good, very impactful. What the government should have done is to tell us, not even this films and censors board alone, all the agencies that will not be functional henceforth. Then this Senate will now work with the president to repeal all those acts, because it's not only this one they are going to do. So there is need for us to put additional prayer. All those agencies that will be affected, either merged, scrapped, whatever, should be sent to us for legislative action, so that there is synergy between us and them. That is why even that report ought to have been brought to us formally, so that we are in tune 100% with whatever it is written there. There is nothing that Senator Onao has done than bringing forth the need for synergy between us and the executive arm, that we must work together. They cannot start and finish it. We cannot start and finish it here. We must work together. In working together, there is need for information, so that we do not work at cross purpose. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Zam Titus.
Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues, I am Dr. Titus Zam. I represent Benue Northwest Senatorial District. Mr. President, I want to thank you very much for seeing this, our corner too. Yeah, I rise to support the motion moved by my brother, distinguished Senator Anao, but to modify his motion in this way. The tone of his motion suggests that the SGF is the problem, or whatever. No. Please, the police, don't misunderstand me. I didn't say he has personalized it. What I want to say rather is that
Senator Zam,
I have already withdrawn.
Restrict yourself to contributions to the national interest, not homemade political intrigues.
I just wanted to say that
the SGF will still support you during the next election. So contribute.
Thank you very much for that correction, sir. But all I wanted to say is that the implementation of the Orusanya panel report by the office of the SGF is only an implementation agency and not the initiator, as the tone of this motion is suggesting. But having said that, I support entirely what he has said, and I also associate myself completely with the need for the National Assembly to be informed properly, so that we don't, amend this, have these motions in piecemeal, because the report is bulky, involving several agencies of government. So there should be a comprehensive report made available to the National Assembly, so so that we can handle this once and for all. I so suggest, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you. But let me say that there's something none of you has been able to hit. So let me see whether the chairman of the Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters, Senator Bongunu, will be able to hit what I'm thinking.
I pray I will be thinking along with the mind of Mr. President.
Yes.
My name is Mohammed Tahir Moguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Well, I have listened carefully and attentively to all the submissions made by the previous speakers. What I want to say is that although the relationship between the executive and the legislature should be a mutually symbiotic relationship, that does not in any way connote that we surrender our powers as given to us by Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance to the executive. In whatever we are doing, we should jealously guard and protect the powers that is given to the legislature. We should not allow the executive to erode these powers through executive fiat. And therefore, all actions of the executive that needs legislative intervention should be brought to the legislature for necessary legislative intervention as the case instanta. Because the motion instanta, also the subject matter of the motion instanta also needs legislative intervention because it requires a repeal of an existing law. We should never surrender this power. We should always jealously guard and protect that power. And the executive should not act through executive fiat. There should be legislative intervention. So I don't know whether I have spoken the mind of the President of the Senate.
Okay, I'll give the opportunity to the Deputy Senate President, but I'm sure he will hit it. Let me leak the secret. I should leave it. Okay, Deputy Senate President, go ahead.
But not to bring kind of note. This matter is direct to the point, very clear.
Very
what
clear.
What he's asking for is simply to pull together the Russian report, bring a bill to National Assembly, and then those agencies will be repealed through that bill, and then they stand repealed. Simple. I think that is what is should be done, because you have these entities created by law, and now you don't want it to remain. So the simple thing is to bring bill. So the SGF should ask Mr. President to give him the go-ahead to bring a bill encapsulating all these entities in that bill. And that we brought here, and then we'll now pass the bill, and then they'll stand scrap once and for all. I just saw you, Mr. President.
Thank you. You almost got it, but only one thing. Senator Aparibe, let's see whether you are thinking the same way I'm thinking.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to give information. In 2006, the federal government scrapped an agency of the Ministry of Education called NINLAN, National Institute for Nigerian Languages. But the Senate in 2007 refused and said, you have to bring, because it's a law that has set it up, you must bring a bill to repeal that act. The government of President Yaradua brought a bill here to repeal that NINLAN, and it was rejected on this floor because everyone, all the speakers that they found out that was the only institute teaching Nigerian languages, that they had an institute for Arabic studies and an institute for French studies, and none for Nigerian languages. And so we rejected it on the floor here in 2008. So there is a precedent for this, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Okay, you almost got it. Let me say that there is no evidence that the directive by the SGF was in line with Orasanya report. There is nothing. If you have said that the SGF in a memo directed that in implementing the Rosanya report, the National Film and Video Censors Board is now to become a directorate. That would have been an infringement of our acts of parliament. But at that stage, we will say he has no authority to do so, unless that act was repealed. So, but he didn't say that. There's no evidence to that effect. So, I don't want us to go into saying that the presidency is implementing the Rosanya report, because if the presidency wishes to implement the Rosanya report, due process must be followed. And that due process means that all the acts of parliament that are in existence will now be brought before the parliament for further consideration. And you can only begin to implement it when the parliament is in agreement with you. Because if you, for instance, Senator Abaribe has just pointed out, if you bring like this video and National Film and Video Censors Board Act, and the parliament says no, we rather want to include more things for implementation, it means it stays alive unless the president refuses to sign our amendment. If he doesn't sign the amendment, the initial act of parliament remains. I don't know whether you understand. So there must be a reason. We can't direct the executive on how they implement their things connected with their various agencies. But here, that they did not come to us means that the National Film and Video Censors Board Act is still in existence. Whatever they are saying that certain sections should report to maybe a directorate in SGF and all that, does not negate the fact that this is still in existence. So all the arguments we have made here go to nothing because it is still in existence. That's the point I wanted to make, that why do we begin now to cry, waste time and cry when this act is still in existence? We are talking as if the act is not in existence. It's in existence. It will only cease to be in existence when there is a bill before us requesting for repeal. And then we accordingly say so. So I commend the mover of the motion, because if you look at paragraph 5 or so, he said, concerned that the directive violates the National Film and Video Censors Board Act Cap 40, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, as amended. That means he acknowledges it. He said the process of winding down an agency, if that is what they are doing, should come into force through the Act of Parliament. First, they should comment by the repeal of the Act. So he gave reasons, he gave us solution here. And so he also advised the office of the SGF through this motion. Then he went further to say that he said that within 3 weeks, with effect from this, that the SGF's office should receive a report that it has become a department in the office of the SGF. So within those 3 weeks, the SGF is leaving room to follow due process, which means the intention to revert to Parliament may be there. So we are just we are jumping the gun. And then he now said, conscious that this abuse of rule of law, if it is true, if it goes unchecked, will become a bad precedent. There is no way the federal government of Nigeria can commence the implementation of Orosanya report by just repealing acts of parliament through sending them to agencies, to departments of various ministries or office of the Secretary to Government. They know the right thing to do. The Attorney General of the Federation is alive to his responsibilities. So I commend the mover of this motion, and I urge us to look at the prayers, particularly prayer 1 says, call on the Secretary to Government of the Federation and the Honourable Minister of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy to suspend the winding down of the National Film and Video Censors Board if it is true. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. As amended, if it is true. Prayer 2, call on the Office of Secretary to Government of the Federation and other relevant agencies of government to immediately commence the process of repealing the act establishing the national, if need be. Those in support of prayer 2 as amended, if need be, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. If need be. Prayer 3, urge the federal government to continue with the winding down. We are not aware that the federal government is winding down. But those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. So let me thank the remover of the motion and to say that the parliament is not yet aware that the Rosa report is being implemented. And whatever is happening there, we would like to urge our committee on creative arts and to look into the issue and get back to us to be sure that, yes, indeed, you are oversighting that agency. Should go ahead to check. By the way, that agency ought to be under the Committee on Tourism, am I right? The Culture and Tourism. The DSP, am I right? Culture and Tourism. And the former chairman of the Committee on Culture and Tourism has said because of religious issues that he may not be able to chair that committee. So temporarily, I think we should hand over that committee to distinguished Senator Lalong to handle in the meantime until we do a holistic review of our various committees. Those in support of the suggestion of the Senate President say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, we've just moved brought a motion and passed it. I remember vividly last time when the Orisanya report issue came up in the presidency, and the president gave a directive setting up a committee to look at those in the Orisanya report and make appropriate recommendations. But that was presented as if the president or the executive has given approval for the merger of the said institutions. And it generated a lot of tension because it is this same National Assembly that created those agencies under just different leadership. If we come here to just, without critical debate analysis, to write off those agencies, we are harming the institution. As Senator Mongono said, this is an institution deliberately created by our Constitution for a purpose. And that purpose is to look at our laws. By enacting it, by amending it, by repealing it. And that is our responsibility. So, it is very important for you, Mr. President, as the head of this institution. And even the president said last time, because in the Orisanya report, an institution that was created and sponsored by me was included. And you said...
This Senator, this Senate is not, the Orisanya report or its repeal or amendment is not before us.
Yes, that's what I'm coming to that.
And even the report that was probably submitted to the president after he set it up to look at possible implementation is not before us. If the report of the possible implementation of the resident report, either in whole or in part, is forwarded to us, it is our business to look into those things.
Yeah, no, but
but those things are not before us now.
No, we are arriving at something. We are on the same page. But all I'm saying is, through this, because it's on a record, it should be on record that some of these things is not before the National Assembly. So the National Assembly cannot be held responsible for what is not before it.
The National Assembly cannot even discuss what is not before it.
Yes.
And so what we are advising is that don't go into a report, and please don't mention a Rosalind report.
Okay.
It is not before us. And even the report that the report of the committee set up by the president is not before us. We really have nothing to discuss. And then, of course, by the time the report comes, there may be certain agencies that we may not agree with the executive, and there may be need for us to approach them or approach Mr. President to say this one should not be included among the agencies to be wound up. And there may be some others that could have been excluded, which, in the opinion of the Parliament, we feel they should be meshed. And we will still approach the President and say this one ought to be meshed, but it is not included in the report you sent to us. So since it is not yet before us, we should not dissipate our energy reporting. We are fishing in troubled waters. Accordingly, this Senate is hereby adjourned to the 10th day of July 2024 at 11 a.m. prompt.